start the live streaming, please? Thank you. Well, to all those watching, declare the meeting open, and I'd call for apologies. We do have an apology from Councillor Davidson, and we have an apology from Councillor Martin for lateness. He's attending a roadside incident at the present time on his way to the meeting. Are there any other apologies? Thank you. Would someone like to move that be accepted? Councillor Archibald. Those in favour?
Aye.
Move on to the declaration of interest. And if I could just expand on the declaration of interest following some discussions internally, or perhaps, I was going to say, perhaps Diane could do it, but we need to have a bit more detail as to what you feel the interest is, whether it's punisory, whether it's perceived. You know, we just want a bit more detail. Diane, can you answer that?
And just whether, yeah, we just need some more details. I've highlighted the sections where they need to be completed. Yeah,
if you could, we're just trying to tighten it up. The staff have picked up that it's a wee bit loose, and so I'll pass that around. It's available on Teams, and if you just fill it, that'd be great. Move on to item 3 of the agenda, which is the staff reports. And the first report is the adoption of the summary of technical changes to the LTP for 2018 to 2028. And it's on pages 4 to 43 of your agenda. And
if you could ask Tiara to talk to the report.
Thanks, Tiara.
Good afternoon. So we will take the report as being read. As you're aware, an opportunity has come forward for 2 facets in relation to the topic before council today. One is in terms of the approach through WHL for consideration of bringing the activity of museum entities back in council. And as part of that, then furthermore is around the opportunity to purchase a facility for the consolidation of museum activities and library activities and visitor information services as part of that. So I will take it that the technical change summary document and the consultation document itself is read, and if there are any questions from council members.
Thanks, Tiara. We'll go around the table. Councillor Hart.
I actually don't have any questions. I was just sort of learning myself about how it all works, but no, I don't think I have any questions actually. No.
Councillor Cogan.
I don't have any questions around any of it at all. I've got my head around pretty much most of it.
Councillor Kennedy.
No questions there. I just think it would be handy, rather than just supplying the pages that are going to be changed, actually highlighted exactly what's been changed in each document, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I'm happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
say something? Yeah, we've actually been given a format that we have to use by Audit New Zealand, and this is the format that they actually have required us to use. The changes are in the consultation document. You can see what those changes are in that document. In the technical changes, this is basically just what will replace those pages in the current long-term plan.
Thank you.
Councillor Neal.
All good, thank you.
Paul.
Yeah, no comments. Other than it was actually difficult to hear. Te Aroha, the microphone's a bit far away.
Yes, it's been moved since.
Oh, great. Ka pai.
Francois.
No, happy with the paper. Nothing from me.
Councillor Hartwell. And Deputy Mayor Carruthers. Okay, the resolution we're seeking is A, that Council adopts the amended clause 1.2 of the report, replacing S97G with S93G of the Local Government Act 2002, brackets LGA, close brackets, and B, that Council adopts the summary of technical changes LTP 2018 to 2028. Do I have a mover? So moved. Deputy Mayor Carruthers. Councillor Neal. All those in favour? Thank you. Move on to the next document, which is the draft, which is to approve the draft consultation document for the Westland Discovery Centre. I wonder, Paul or Francois, if you could give me the correct pronunciation of the next word.
Haki Waitara.
Haki Waitara.
Close enough.
Thanks, Paul. The draft document is on pages 44 to 59 of your agenda. And once again, I'll ask Jara to give us a briefing on it.
So in terms of the draft document, it follows on from the technical summary. It is the detail that is required to go out to the public to ensure that they're getting a clear, concise and transparent picture of what is being proposed. There are no determinations made on this. It is a consultation phase. It is about seeking submissions from the public in terms of their support or otherwise of the proposal. And what the paper is asking now is in support of that consultation document being approved for release for public consultation.
Councillors will open it for discussion, and Councillor Hart.
No, I have no. The consultation document itself was, it's fine. It highlights what we're trying to achieve here, and yeah, I support it going out to the public.
Thank you. Councillor Kogan. Right, we may have to. She's muted. Yeah, you're on mute there.
Sorry. Yeah, I have no problem with the consultation document. I think that it's got everything necessary in it to go out to public consultation.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Kennedy.
Yeah, look, I'm not so sure about that the document contains all of the relevant information for the ratepayers to make an informed decision. I mean, we're asking the ratepayers if they want to buy a building. There's no mention as to the current state of the building itself. There's mention of a refit without any budget. I suppose in terms of the financials, it probably should be injected with a healthy dose of pessimism. I mean, what's going to happen if the tenancies in the building cease to exist? Look, I understand there's a lot that needs to go into it, but I'm just not convinced every factor has been included in it.
Jared, do you have a response?
Not a full response. As with any consultation document, what we cannot be seen to be doing is preempting an outcome. So it's not possible for us to actually engage persons to go in and come up with some of what a full retrofit may be. Public perception of that would therefore be the council's already made a determination on one line. The other also being, however, is that in the sense that the consultation comes back against purchasing of the building, then we can engage people with additional expense as well. So it's in terms of doing stages for it and then making sure we still involve people in what that may look like, should that be the outcome of consultation. In terms of tenancies, it's also the same. We can't enter into any discussions with the current tenants under their current terms and conditions, because that will also be preempting, and we can't preempt that they may wish to stay in the premises with any other purchase as well. But it doesn't mean that should it be approved going forward, that there's other tenancy opportunities in the future. So the main gist here is about reminding ourselves in terms of decision makers today, and also public opportunities, that this is the whole point of consultation, and needing to audit the standards so that council is in a position to make a decision that the public is as informed as they can be. And in terms of the state of the building, that is also one of the conditions on the purchase. So we are still waiting for a report which we've said has to be available before consultation is complete. So the content of that report is also taken into account at the time of hearing the submissions. So at any time we actually have basically conditions with within the conditional sale document as well, which enables at any time the council to say yay or nay prior to consultation.
Thanks, Jared. And can you confirm that the document's been fully audited?
It certainly has. It has been through a very rigorous audit trail with the auditors, hence the need to push out the original date for adoption for public consultation. So it has had their tick and their endorsement, and we now follow the process as outlined in the Local Government Act.
Councillor Kennedy.
No, thank you, JP.
Councillor Neal.
Yes, I had similar concerns to Ryan. Te Auaha, it's still a wee bit difficult to hear you, but I, from what I can gather, the information from the engineers will be available before the council makes their decision, but that information isn't available to the public before they make their decision. So in the same way that we need it, I would have thought that the public would have needed it. And of course it can't be definitive and fully extensive, but a ballpark figure on the fit out costs and the repair costs as regards potentially re-roofing or whatever like that. I think that's going to be the big questions that people are going to be asking. So yeah, I was expecting to see those in there. Another couple of comments I had was the biggest percentage increases seem to be generally down in South Westland, where examples were given, and I understand that they might be just random examples. I don't think that will be viewed in a positive way, and wonder if we could have had a more broader spectrum of that. One other question with the finances, I think somewhere it said a museum director will be appointed, blah, blah, blah. Whatever way we go, whether we move the museum to the new building or if we keep it at the Carnegie, either way, surely a museum director will be appointed, I am assuming.
Well, at this stage, we can't make assumptions because that is the whole point of public consultation. So we cannot assume at this stage that the museum would be coming back into house. That is part of consultation, and for the public to come back to state whether they are comfortable with that activity coming back in house. At which point then as council, yes, we can look at the structure of the museum and the staff and delivery of activities. Hence it is placed in there in terms of one of the items that are there for consideration, because it's something that's not included currently in terms of the employment structure and what council may inherit following public consultation. But it's just a item that we've taken that into cognizance and that we're thinking about that as part of the structure. If consultation comes back and states, yes, bring the museum activity back in-house. If the consultation comes back and says no, then it becomes a decision of WHL in terms of what then happens with the museum for the district in terms of Western and Hokitika.
Your Worship, I could talk about the properties that we used for the rates.
Please do.
So, Councillor Neil, we had to use the same properties that were used in the long-term plan, as this is a long-term plan amendment. So, so we couldn't make any changes to that to make it any more, I don't know, random or fairer.
Yeah. Thank you.
Paul.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I've got similar concerns to Councillor Kennedy and Councillor Neil in part. I mean, we're aware of there are problems with that building, that we were waiting on we already have one seismic report, and we're waiting for that to be peer reviewed because there were seismic issues with the building. We know also that that building was basically drawn up on the kitchen table. You just need to look at the roof line. Hence it leaks, and there are problems with that. And we know that there is quite a hefty cost in repairing that, and none of this is in that document. So that is, yeah, I just think that's a shame that we didn't wait until that information was to hand. Then finally, as Councillor Neil said about the costs of the examples of the effect on rating, I wondered whether, and I'm sure there's a good reason for this, but there could have been a differential for Hokitika, for instance. You know, just weighted more towards the Hokitika ward, rather than, I mean, there's an example there from Haast was someone, oh no, I can't recall quite what it was, but based on the valuation down there was a pretty hefty bill to be paying for the Hokitika Museum / library.
Yeah, I can comment on that. It was deemed more appropriate to use general rates for rating for this project, because both the library and the museum are general rated. So the activities that are actually going into that will be general rated, and the only difference with that is the building costs. But it was deemed to be seen as being housing activities that are under the general rate, so do affect the whole region, district, sorry.
Thanks, Francois.
Yeah, look, I agree with the concerns that everyone has around the building, and the fact that we haven't got some detail. I appreciate that. However, I'd be keen to see this document go out and get some early indication on what the community's thinking, because at the end of the day, correct me if I'm wrong, people can submit on this, right? So then questions will possibly be asked through that submission process. If they are, then by that time we would have I assume got that information that we require, because we need to go through this process, as Te Araha was saying, to actually be allowed to go and find out some more detail. So I think for me, this is about getting some feedback from the community and allowing that submission process to play out basically. So I'm keen to get it out from my perspective.
Thanks, Francois. Councillor Hartshorn. At the top right hand corner. Councillor Cogan, thank you for that.
Sorry, I've just got some clarification around this. So when this is going out to consultation anyhow, we are doing a comparison between what we're currently doing through council, which is leasing all these other premises at a cost that is actually paid for by the ratepayers out in the community, right? Versus owning the building and paying a mortgage on the building for similar, if not much cheaper costings. Is that correct?
Yes, so within the consultation document itself, the page 6 of the consultation document, financial implications, and that does show where there is an operational impact for the library, and that is where there's a reduction in cost for moving out of that library leased building.
Councillor Archer.
Yes, I think we need to carry on and get a consultation to you'll get a perspective from the community to carry on further, and as was said, this to go and spend all the money on analysis on it when the consultation might say no. But Councillor Cogan's completely right there that you've got to weigh up the rental factor and the maintenance that's going to have to be done on the existing museum. So I'm for it to go out.
And Deputy Mayor Krause.
Yes, I agree with the concerns that have been expressed so far. I think the unknowns here will tend to confuse this issue. For example, I had a ratepayer who came to Greymouth to see me yesterday, and he made the point about this, that being aware of what's being proposed, how can anyone sensibly make submissions when there are so many unknowns surrounding this purchase and its implications? And those of us who have had the misfortune to own commercial buildings which have been seismically suspect, and I'm one of them, know that there are just enormous problems around such buildings and costs. And so I tend to think that the consultation process is going to be confused by this issue. People are going to say, we just don't know enough about the implications of this to sensibly comment. And I feel exactly the same. I don't have a view on this because I can't be expected to, because I simply don't know what the financial implications or the costs and financial implications to council might be. So I'm happy for it to go out for the reasons that have been expressed, but I tend to think that most of the submissions are going to be around the unknowns of this rather than the proposal itself.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Krause. And certainly, before councillors make any decision, all of those matters that are clouding or haven't been quantified yet will need to be on the table for councillors to consider, and that before they make a decision. Councillor Martin, I understand you've been out in the rain. Do you have any?
My apologies for lateness. Sorry. What do you do? Come across an accident and keep driving, or stop?
Correct.
So, sorry about that. Just a point of clarification. What agenda item are we up to?
We're up to item 3.
To
Not to
approve
consultation.
So you've done the adoption of summary of technical changes?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Without being privy to the earlier discussion, although I could probably listen to it again at some stage in the future, the only thing I queried was around the transfer of functions from Destination Westland. The report clearly identifies the transfer of the museum, but makes no mention around the transfer of the eyesight or visitor information services.
Correct, yeah.
So is the proposal, as per the consultation document, to continue with those being outsourced by a subsidiary company?
So in terms of the consultation document, what it does is reflect the recommendations to council following the presentation by WHL, and at that time the eyesight, it's not one of those recommendations in terms of transferring to museum as up to the council as an activity. It was only in terms of museum staff and the activity of the museum, and at that stage WH was looking at other opportunities. So eyesight is not part of this consultation. However, we have included reference to visitor information hub services, an acknowledgement that there may be a future without an eyesight model, and therefore if this consolidated or proposed consolidated activity was to take place, then the provision of visitor information hub services can still be run through the same complex without having to be consulted on again. But no, the eyesight is not and has not been part of consultation or consideration for bringing back in-house to council.
Okay. I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying that should this public consultation, go out and be in favour of the purchase of the building, then the museum and the transfer of museum function back to council, that in the library would be the initial council functions to be housed within the building, and then as part of the long-term plan, would there be consideration for the eyesight? I'm just trying to get my head around the timelines here.
But in terms of both parties, Destination Westland and WHL have agreed that in terms of eyesight and delivery, that continues to be run by their respective businesses for us until future time that they determine otherwise from the council. So the eyesight continues to run under Destination Westland regardless of what the outcome of this consultation is. It's not part of it.
Does that not make it even more cloudy, or even mentioning it then?
No, what we're referring to is visitor information hubs in terms of potential future activities and what that might look like coming through the consolidated activities we have, but it's not about running an eyesight function itself. But as I spoke to earlier, what we can't do is go in terms of what the future might look like, because it would seem to be preempting the outcome of the consultation we're seeking. So that's why it's made it quite clear in terms of the resolution, with the determinations there are people in support of the museum activity coming back in-house to council, and that's what it's strictly limited to. And then further to that is whether they support the purchase of the building for consolidation of museum and library activities. Yes, the reports and papers and other such things is not clouded, but people think we are taking the eyesight activity back in-house. No, council is not.
Could I just advise councillors that the live stream is currently not working? We're trying to resolve the issues there, but it is still recording.
Are there any other comments that councillors would like to make? Councillor Kennedy.
TC, you mentioned earlier that the building report ideally is going to be due before the end of the consultation period. I've just got a question regarding, should, let's say, this building report is received within the next 2 weeks, would that information then be made available to the public to view, or would it be council only?
I don't see any issue with that report being made available. We have made it quite clear through DA in terms of them engaging the appropriate engineering consultants that at the latest we need that by the 21st of September, which then enables it to be circulated. And if we get it before closing submissions, I don't see any issue why that can't be put up in terms of content and report on council website for information as well. But we'd have to get qualification on that in terms of potential impact for the building owner. But if we've paid for the information, then how do we choose to release components of all that information? But regardless, it is one of the conditions of sale, and if council is not happy with the content of that report, then it is one of those things that can't be met, then straight away council will be determined not to proceed with the purchase of the building.
Yeah, thank you, TC.
Okay, so we'll move on to the proposed resolution, and it's A, that council approves the draft consultation document, Westland Discovery Centre, Pakawai Tura, and B, that council directs staff to conduct public consultation under SS 93A, 97 and 93E of the Local Government Act 2002. Someone like to move that?
So,
Deputy Mayor Carruthers, Councillor Hartshorn. Those in favour?
Right.
No.
Those against? Okay. Move on to the next item, which is the audit report. The long-term plan amendment consultation document and audit report has been tabled. Leslie, do you wish to speak there, or?
No, it's a fairly standard audit report. It hasn't been qualified in any way, so the audit have done a thorough investigation and very thorough investigation of the documents, so it's a case of approving this.
Sorry, I may not have received a copy of it. Whereabouts is it?
It was tabled.
Has someone else got a copy of it? Or?
I haven't seen it either.
Emma, you got?
It indicates it should be there, but it's not.
Yeah,
It
it
is
says
there. It is here somewhere.
I thought
it's not in our
physically
packet, it just
tabled,
says
not on the table.
placeholder.
Is this something you can print a copy quickly to? It's just saying that.
So that's been forwarded to each council now.
Councillors, yeah.
It's just come through.
So in front of you, councillors, you should have by now the document from the audit report, the audit letter.
Excuse me, Diane, what's it under?
It's just not Ema's just emailed.
It was just email just now.
An email to whoever. Councillor Kennedy, have you got it in front of you there? You're on mute to your
So I can just go through it quickly if you like. It's just a two-page document which basically gives an opinion. I can read the opinion to you. The information in the consultation document about the proposed amendment of the long-term plan provides an effective basis for public participation in the council's decisions about the proposed amendment, because it fairly represents the reasons for and implications of the proposed amendment and identifies and explains the main issues and choices facing the council and the district related to the proposed amendment, and the information and assumptions underlying the information in the consultation document related to the proposed amendment are reasonable. Then they just give their standard basis of opinion, which is the standards that they work to, and also the responsibilities of the council and auditor. So basically, council is responsible for meeting legal requirements, having systems and processes in place, and ensuring that the financial information being presented has been prepared in line with generally accepted accounting practice. And then it talks about independence and control from audit, and that's the audit report.
Thanks, Leslie. It's a fairly standard document. Councillor Hart, you probably read a few more of these than most of us.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, we've only just got it, but yeah, it's pretty standard, and they've given their opinion that it fairly represents the reasons and identifies the main issues. So yeah, I support that. We received that report.
Councillor Martin.
Yeah, it looks straightforward. Thanks, Leslie, for clarifying those points and getting it circulated to us. Just out of interest, how much does this cost?
We don't know yet.
So we haven't been invoiced for it. Okay, well, it's hot off the press, but in terms of the process today, do you have any idea what a long-term plan amendment actually costs?
No, I mean, this one was particularly difficult because We used our brand new IBIS system, which was great, really cut down the time that we needed to do this. So we thought that would really reduce the cost. And then audit decided that it didn't actually match the plan, because the original plan was done through an old redundant Excel model. So we had to then start actually manually updating that old model. So that has considerably increased the time that we've had to spend on this. Therefore, audit time as well.
So we haven't actually paid any money out for this project yet?
Not paid yet, and the audit plan just stated that, the audit engagement letter just stated that they didn't know what the cost was at the time. Depended on the work they had to put in.
Okay.
Councillor Neil, or are there any other questions in relation to the letter?
Oh, no, just one, I suppose it goes without saying, but can we get it attached to that document? Stat would be good.
It will be attached, but this is the way that they work it. Until technically you can't adopt this unless you adopt the original documents or approve the original documents. So we can't put this in until after you've done that, which you have now.
Right, so there are no other questions that I can see. The proposed resolution is that council receive the long-term plan amendment consultation document audit report is tabled. Would like to move? Councillor Hart. Councillor Hartshorn, those in favour? Those against? Thank you. On to the last part, which is the adoption of the LTP amendment draft consultation document, Western Discovery Centre, Paki Waitara. Who's going to present that?
It's just literally adopting the document now that you've approved it and received the audit report.
The proposed resolution is that council adopts the LTP amendment draft consultation document, Western Discovery Centre. Moved accordingly. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Crothers. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hartshorn. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Thank you very much. And I understand there's been a problem with the live stream.
That's the same as live streaming on here. I think it's a link to the YouTube. I think it's the YouTube. So,
The second part of it.
so as far as we know, it's still live streaming and recording.
Then on that basis, I'd ask that you stop the live stream and I'll close the meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance.